Vetting your lead. A lot of people say or ask, how do I get my stories approved? What does that process look like? And so I call it vetting your lead. Vetting your lead is nothing more than really making sure that you as a church and the leadership within your church is excited and proud of the story that you're sharing, backing up the story you're sharing, but also it's about making sure that the person whose story you're sharing is in a position where they should be sharing it. Okay, so let's kind of go through this process. Number one, is the person whose story we want to share a part of our church? I mean, really invested in our church. Now for you, that could look totally different. It could look totally different for every church, but I would say serving. Is the person serving within your church? All you're doing is you're saying, is this person whose story we want to share bought into what we're doing here? And there's no, being bought in with your time is a really good way to qualify that. And so is the person volunteering on a regular basis? Do they sing in the choir? Do they help with kids? What are they doing within our church? Are they a part of what we're doing? Number two, are they in community? It could be small group, or it could be your volunteer team, or it could be an outreach team. But whatever it is, you want to make sure that your lead is in some sort of accountability group, all right? That whenever they share their story, they are accountable to a group of people in the case that something negative happens. And then number three, how long ago did this event happen? The answer, or the successful answer, is going to be based on, how dramatic the event was. With Lee's story, this affair happened a long time ago, okay? I think the amount of time that has passed since this happened in Lee's life is a good amount. I think enough time has passed, all right? Now, if this situation had happened 3 years ago, I might say, this is an amazing story. Lee, I'm glad that you're on the road to recovery. Why don't we wait a little bit? And I might not say that to him. I would just say that to our team. I think we should wait this one out. Okay, so I would say the more dramatic the event in the lead's life, probably the longer that you should wait. And if you're not exactly sure if enough time has passed, then this is a great opportunity for you to talk to the team about it, talk to your pastor, and kind of go from there. Probably the last non-negotiable is to ask the question, are there people around who will be negatively affected by this story, like in a really bad way? Okay, so with Lee's story, the first person who's going to be affected is his wife, Shannon. Okay, is she on board? If Shannon's not on board, we're not doing the story. It's detrimental to Lee's relationship if he, for some reason, felt like, oh, she's not on board, but I could go ahead and share it. Now, Lee wasn't in that situation anyway, so that's great. But that question has to be asked. Lee, is Shannon on board with this? Yes, she is. You got to ask that question. Now, with Lee's situation, he's got a church back home that he had to stand up in front of and be accountable to. Say that he had this affair. So I asked him, hey, Lee, the church back home, this isn't the first time they're hearing this story, right? And he's like, no, everyone who would have been affected heard it from my own mouth, and that's okay. There's no surprises there. So I would say they're not going to be negatively affected by hearing this story. That's great, okay? And then the other person I asked about is the woman he had an affair with. I don't know her name. I don't know who she is. I could see her on the street and have no idea. Lee hasn't had contact with her and since the day that happened, since the day Shannon found out. And so I just said, hey, this woman, what if she sees this story? Is she going to be negatively affected? And he said, I believe that she's not going to see the story. It's probably not going to happen. But let's say she did. She's aware of the situation. She knows what happens. I believe that God has been able to work in her. I'm not going to say her name. And to me, that was everything. He's not going to say her name. No one who watches this story is going to know who this woman is. It's not going to paint her in a bad light. They'll have no idea. With those non-negotiables being signed off on, I thought we can move forward with this story. Now, those are non-negotiables for you as a storyteller. That's your responsibility. But probably, but you probably don't have the ultimate responsibility of being able to give the green light and say, we can show this video in service, or, we can put it on our Facebook page or whatever that is. Most likely your pastor is the one who's going to give the green light. So the pastor who is in charge of giving me the green light, who has that responsibility, says, I'm good with it. Now we've got the green light. Let me just say this. There are a lot of stories that I have wanted to share over the years, and all my non-negotiables were signed off on, but when I got to a pastor, they said, I just feel like you should wait, or I'm just not comfortable with it right now. And look, I can fight. And part of my responsibility is to say, here's why I think we should do it. But ultimately, he's hearing from God. It's his responsibility. He's the one who's going to take on, he's going to be accountable for it. And so I have to be okay with the process. If he says, I'm not comfortable with it, I think we should wait, or I don't think we should do it at all, then I have to be like, okay, we're not going to do it. And so we're going to move on. But if he's into it, they liked Lee's story, we got the green light, it's time to move on.